I'm Rachel Horgan. Join me each episode as I sit down with a guest co-host covering the latest business stories in the Seattle area. We'll read the news so you don't have to. This is The Weekly. Okay, hi everybody. I feel like we've got some new listeners since I've done this call out, but it's cringy to ask for this, but if you can go and like and subscribe and do all the things. But it really does help me. I'm actually working to get sponsors for my 2-year anniversary party. I did a 1-year anniversary party, oddly enough, exactly where I'm sitting today, which I'll explain in a minute. But if you can go in and subscribe, whether on Apple or Spotify, wherever you listen, and then if you can do a rating and a review, or if you just want to do the rating, that really helps me kind of show that this podcast is growing and people like listening to it. So I'd appreciate it. I don't really have a lot of other personal life updates. I didn't really do a lot this weekend. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guest. We have Jean-Luc Pedanou, General Manager of Olympic Athletic Club. Hi.
Hi there.
So I mentioned that we are sitting here. It's the Olympic Rooftop Pavilion, which is on top of Hotel Ballard, which is connected to the Olympic Athletic Club and the same owner, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I had my anniversary party here, and well, we were trying to figure out where to record, and you're like, I have just the spot. So we're looking at a beautiful Seattle sunny day, and it's really great to be back here. But I wanted to give a little background on you, is that you've been the general manager for about 1.5 years, and prior to this, he was the general manager at an Equinox in Northern California. He's held leadership roles at the Bay Club in San Francisco, and then if you keep scrolling on the LinkedIn, there's more fitness clubs in New York. So it's always been a fitness club world for you. Why were you interested in that kind of industry?
Well, I walked into a club when I was 17 and I never left. That's literally it. It's as with a lot of people who work in this industry, oftentimes you become a member of a club first, fall in love with it, and then end up working there. So I talked my dad into getting me a membership when I was 17 at a local club. He had to sign special waivers so I could actually have membership there. Oh. And while initially I thought I would go down the line and actually become a journalist or an artist, I fell in love with the industry. And, for me, it was about falling in love with the industry that's about positivity, self-improvement. And then eventually, as I learned the whole business aspect of it, it became more and more fascinating. So that's literally it. Walked in when I was 17 and never left. Do you work out at this gym, or do you feel like people can see you and you I do both.
You do both,
I will say, yes. And just like everyone, I will say, I have my lazy periods. Yes. Right? Just let's dispel that rumor or that myth that everyone who works in the industry is always working out.
Yeah.
We all have the same challenges, but I will say a lot of us, including myself, we do have spaces outside of here that we frequent.
That's what I would think, is that similar to like if you work at a bar, you don't want to like go to that bar to drink, right? You want to go somewhere else.
I mean, as a general manager, it's important for me to see every inch of the club.
True.
And experience it as a member. But I do also make that time to go outside and do different activities.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so our articles today, we're going to talk about 4 different things. The first one is going to be the business of gyms, and I'm really excited to dive into that. And then we'll talk about Rad Power Bikes potentially shutting down. Our third story is going to be about mergers. There's 2 different mergers. BECU is doing a merger, and Perkins Coie is doing a merger. And the last one is going to be a kind of a quick update on the Starbucks strike. I feel like I couldn't do an episode without at least mentioning it. So the first one, there is an article I'll reference. Rick Morgan, he's a buddy of mine, wrote this article a couple months back. So I'm going to include it, but really we're kind of talking about gyms in general. So before we get into some of these other questions, help us understand the size of Olympic Athletic Club as it compares to some of the other gyms in Seattle, whether that's by number of members or number of classes or space. Just help us understand the scope of it.
Olympic Athletic Club is an expansive property. We occupy most of the block that we're built on, and it's a multi-level club. We're spread out over 3 levels. We offer everything from 2 swimming pools to 2 jacuzzis. We have 5 different workout areas, so 5 different strength and cardiovascular areas, 4 studios. We offer a little bit over 156 classes per week, on-site childcare, and we also have a full-service spa. That's all supported also by the fact that we have 7 parking lots where we have a little bit over 450 parking spaces available for our members as well.
Wow. When you drive by, you wouldn't think that all of that is in this space. That's incredible.
Not at all.
Yeah. So, one question is about rates. Like I said, kind of comparing to other
Certainly.
places. So I was doing a little Googling and seeing, you've got your 24-hour fitnesses and Planet Fitnesses are like 20, $30 a month. You've got the WAC downtown, which they said, quote, was hundreds of dollars a month. It didn't say exactly. You've got the Equinoxes. I'm sure, you worked in Barry's. That's somewhere between like $250 and $350 a month. Do you have a sense? Can you let us know, like, do you fall on one end or the other? I don't know what you can share.
I mean, what I will say is that we fall in the exact lane of being what I refer to as an affordable luxury. So we're literally half the cost of what an Equinox would be, but offer comparable, if not more expansive features, literally. And that comes from us being in business for a little bit over 40 years. So we opened in 1979. The membership base has grown and the price point has steadily grown over time. We've been reinvesting in the club, but the club really has an incredible value proposition from the standpoint of what we charge and what we offer. And that's something that most people just don't realize until they walk in through our doors.
Yeah. Yeah. The part of why I reached out to you was because all of my friends have joined this gym and it's all they're talking about and they love it. And I don't, these are friends that aren't making a bunch of money and it seems like it is affordable, but it's obviously not like the low end of Planet Fitness and things like that. It reminds me, we did an episode on movie theaters once and I was talking about how people are like, oh, well, you can watch it at home. I'm like, that's not really the point. I think if something's worth going to, people will spend the money for it. So this argument can be made as like, yeah, Planet Fitness has some of the same stuff, but it's not the same experience and people are willing to pay for that experience. So speaking of, you mentioned the amenities and I think OAC is pretty unique in some of the amenities that you've been offering. And you mentioned childcare. I think that's pretty specific to yours. And there's free parking. What's your strategy when you think about amenities and does it pay off? Like, free parking, for example, do you end up losing money, but it makes sense because you get the members here and all that, When
we think about parking or when we talk about parking, I'll say it's almost the equivalent of real estate. It's just as important. And it does really enhance the convenience factor for our members in regards to accessing the club. So it is extremely important. We just recently added 200 additional parking spots earlier on this year. So that was an investment that we made for our member experience overall. And then beyond that, of course, as far as unique services, we were talking about childcare. Childcare does add a certain level of convenience for families. It removes that barrier for a lot of people who are working from home or who have spouses that are at home or partners that are at home that need to actually come in and use the club as well. And then even special facilities or unique facilities, you mentioned those. We do also have a separate women's gym. That's also another unique feature we offer.
Yeah, I guess talk to me about the women's gym. What made you think to do that? Has it paid off? Tell me more.
I'd say it's a great example of us listening to our members and realizing that we wanted to create a safe space for people to have, an option for people to have where they can exercise in privacy. The club itself is designed with wide open spaces, but also lots of private spaces. So there are private spaces within the club that are also rather unique in design and they're intentional. But the women's gym was something I'd say really in response to a need that had come up and that people were asking for. We'd had a smaller women's gym prior to my arrival. I've been with the club a year and a half. But when I came on board, one of my first tasks was to actually modernize and expand that. So we expanded it into a space that we have across the street that has whole separate lounge area and selection of free weights, cardio, everything that you could really need in regards to actually getting a full workout.
Yeah, it's so funny. I was getting my hair done and my hairdresser goes to a different gym. I was like, gosh, I just wish there was a women's only section because she was kind of having a bad experience. And then I drove by and saw yours. So that's kind of interesting. One of the articles that I mentioned earlier, it talks about how a lot of these gyms are now this race to have the most amenities or the best amenities. Since you've been in this industry a long time, is that something you've seen change throughout? Like, are we focused a lot more on amenities and this club membership feel than the gyms in the past? Or has it always kind of been like that?
Well, I'd say that the customer's expectation grows over time. And so their interest in regards to amenities, in regards to services grows. It makes clubs more attractive for them to use and easier for them to use. So part of being popular, part of being successful is keeping up with what those needs are, what those requests are, and sometimes anticipating them at the same time. Now, of course, you can go the route of being more of a country club environment, which some clubs do, or thinking more from a utility or functional standpoint or an intentional standpoint. And I'd say that's kind of the route that we've gone. I mean, looking at amenities that our members are going to use that are going to differentiate us in the business. So assessing those decisions in that way.
Yeah. Has there ever been in your time like an amenity that you thought was going to be so successful and then it kind of flopped, or like any examples of like bad amenities that didn't really work or that you wouldn't do again? I don't know if you...
Well, certain things do come in waves. So we did offer a CrossFit gym for a period of time prior to my arrival. And we moved away from that, and we've turned that space into a personal training studio. So for our population, that wasn't really the complementary activity that they were looking for. It wasn't the secondary activity they were looking for. So we changed that space and retooled it completely.
Yeah, that's smart. That makes sense. There's a lot of different like trends that are popular over the years. I guess what else have you seen change since you first got into this industry to now? Any other business trends?
I'd say there's more intention, first and foremost. So, I mean, for the consumer, for our members, there's more of an awareness of the importance of health, or health being wealth, as they would say these days. And people walk into the club with a lot more specific needs in regards to reducing stress, in regards to improving their cardiovascular capacity. So they'll come in with a specific idea more often now than I'd seen in the past. And I think I would attribute that to customers just becoming more aware of the importance of exercise, that it's not a luxury, it's a necessity. So they may procrastinate in making that decision like everyone else, but ultimately, they come in with a little bit more intentionality. And then from a business standpoint, I'd say, again, it's the demands for quality and consistency. Those things are, I'd say, what's changed on our end. So the demands for hospitality, quality services, unique services, high level of equipment, or high tech equipment, as they would say, those things become more and more important at the same time.
So like, because, they're releasing you can work out with the mirror that gives you the instructions. There's all these inventions outside of the gym that I feel like what you're saying is people now expect it in the gym as well. Yeah.
They do. All those inventions, all those innovations are important because ultimately they improve awareness of fitness, but oftentimes they're put to the side, and ultimately people crave the community, they crave the variety, and sometimes the discipline of going to a place and actually getting their workouts done. Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, Peloton's a good example. We have so many members who enroll who have Pelotons at home who just don't use them, but they'll come in and do a cycle class here in the club. So it's just, they're more motivated to be around other people. There's that human component's never going to change. And technology does make a big difference in regards to coaching and training as well. And there's so many training apps out in the market these days, and some of them are rather good, but nothing replaces being in the club and sometimes watching another person, but more importantly, at times working with a personal trainer at the same time. That's oftentimes the final barrier a person will have to really immersing themselves and committing themselves to fitness, working with a trainer. Because oftentimes people will try to do it on their own for as long as they can, whether they're seeing results or not.
Yeah, I need some. I've said this a lot, but I grew up playing sports, and so I need somebody to tell me what to do. If I walk into a gym, how much weight, how many reps, which machine, how long, like I need a plan. So I'm definitely one of those people that would need either a trainer or somebody around me. But you mentioned community, and I know my friend went to your retro prom, I think you had a while back. Has social events become more a part of the business than ever before?
Absolutely. I mean, community with a capital C is what's really important, I'd say, or a cornerstone of our industry, of our business. So social events has a large part of that. So we'll typically host 2 to 3 large social events per year, along with smaller pop-ups or smaller events throughout the year. And people do respond to those. There's a craving for community now, perhaps more than ever before. People want to feel connected, and they want to feel encouraged and excited about also coming to their club. And
I think with the social media and all of that, and people working from home, the gym has really become a third place for people to meet other people and have that community. I agree. Before we move on to the next article, I want to ask about your renovations. So you just did renovations. Are you done with them? With the women's locker room and men's locker room?
Yes.
Right? Both of them?
Both locker rooms.
What made you decide to do it? Why now? And how did it go? Any lessons learned?
Well, it was literally something that we could have put off. So one of the best things about our organization from a standpoint of strategic planning is trying to anticipate what the needs are for the membership. And we knew that down the line, we needed to completely renovate the locker rooms. We'd been investing significantly in the club over an extended period of time. And it was time just to redo the locker rooms. So it ended up being a complete gut and rebuilding of the entire space. It took a little bit over a month's time. The goal with it was to create more of a spa-like atmosphere, to lighten the color palette, and make it more inviting. And I'll say, very proudly that it was extremely successful. The things that we learned from it, I'd say, are to anticipate delays. We were so on track for the first 3 weeks of the project. We were trying to complete both locker rooms within a month's time, which is a rather hefty feat as it is. And we were on track, I'd say, until the last week of the month, where certain shipping delays and product delays that were completely out of our control just derailed the entire thing. So I'd say anticipating delays, and then you can never communicate enough. So making sure you over communicate the details, the scope of the project, and any type of delays that you incur. I'd say those are the big lessons.
My friend wanted me to ask you, what was the conversation around removing the hot tub? I guess there was a hot tub jacuzzi in the women's.
Certainly.
Was that for more space, I would guess? Or
it was. There were a couple of reasons on that. First and foremost, it's purely from a standpoint of maintenance. That jacuzzi was hard to maintain, considering that it was in the women's locker room. So having a crew go in there was extremely disruptive. Also, when you have a jacuzzi in a locker room space, you're dealing with challenges in regards to humidity, which affect the entire locker room space itself. And then I will say our planning did have to take into account that we had 2 other jacuzzis in the building. So we were operating with 3 jacuzzis. So we have one adjacent to each one of our pools. So we have 2 full-size lap pools, and we have jacuzzis adjacent to them. So it made it easier for us to make that decision, and allowed us to expand the locker room and create more of a spacious and spa-like environment, which has been really a big hit.
Yeah, absolutely. And those hard decisions have to be made when you're making some changes.
Yeah.
All right, we're moving on to Rad Power Bikes. So they may close in early January if they can't find more funding. This was one of America's biggest e-bike brands. It was founded in 2007, and by 2017, it had expanded into Europe. It was blowing up. And then especially sales were surging in 2020 and 2021 during the pandemic, to the point where people had to wait months to get their e-bike because of production timing and all of that. They just weren't ready for the surge. Then in that time, they start raising a bunch of money because all the investors are saying, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So they get all this money to increase all their production. And then the pandemic surge wears off, which we've seen in other companies as well. So there was also, by the time the pandemic was kind of towards the end, is that there was more competition. So that's what the article kind of shows as the rise and fall of Rad Power Bikes. Yeah. Is there any initial thoughts you had on this article in general?
Well, it's always tough to see a local business struggle and have to shut down, especially one that helped define e-bikes. I think the big lesson is really a reminder for all of us that a surge in business is not a sustainable business model. I mean, the wave eventually subsides or crashes. And then there's also the factor of differentiation. So when you have a surge in business, it's fantastic, but that also brings competitors, which happened in this case, which was interesting to read about. And with those competitors, you have to be able to offer a uniquely better product or different product as well to compete. And if you're not doing that, you're ultimately going to lose. And of course that dissipates the market, and it's just not sustainable. So yeah, it's a hard lesson to learn.
What about when you're talking about surging? I think of January, because we're coming up on January. Everybody has their New Year's resolutions, wants to get back into the gym. How do you prepare for that surge? I think a lot of gyms do like a promotion around that time too. I guess what's your business strategy around the January rush?
Well, first and foremost, the key is being ready operationally. So we've got really probably some of the best housekeeping and maintenance teams in the industry. So it's about having your club ready for that surge. We're already seeing an increase in usage. Seattle has I mean, a unique usage pattern. I mean, the minute the weather turns here, you see more people coming indoors and using clubs in a different way. So our weekdays are ticking up from a usage standpoint as well as our weekends. So we're already seeing that. And we know that'll peak in January. So there's the operational aspect that we need to be prepared for. From a promotional standpoint, yes, we'll offer incentives. It's a big time for people to come in. But I mean, we'll focus more on making sure the member experience is key because everything else will fall into place there afterwards.
Yeah, I think that's smart because you don't want to go to a gym and the class is too crowded and you can't get stuff that you want, all that.
And also that, I mean, you also have to look at the type of systems that you have in place to manage all of that. I mean, access to the club, a lot of that is dictated by the size of the club. A lot of that's dictated by the price point. People who do invest in our club are looking for a different experience. And we have a physical plant that's considerably larger than most other places. That, coupled with our price point and the way the club is designed spatially, does create an incredible flow. So it's great to be able to say to people, you can come in during peak time and access what you need to.
Yeah. It's fantastic. Okay, we'll move on to our third article, which is all about mergers. So, like I said, there's two of them that I'll recap for you. BECU merges with California-based Safe Credit Union, and that'll happen by early 2027. So, really far in advance. BECU, as a reminder, is Washington's largest credit union by asset size. And for now, both of them will keep their branding after the merger, but you never know what can happen beyond that. And then the other merger is Seattle's Perkins Coie is merging with London-based Ashurst and will now operate as Ashurst Perkins Coie globally. This is a law firm, and they will have co-CEOs. That doesn't sound like that concerns me, co-CEOs, but I guess since it's London and the U.S., they'll probably operate a little separately. And then Perkins Coie is Seattle's largest law firm. So there you go. Those are your merger updates. Ownership. So I believe, like we mentioned, Hotel Ballard and OAC are owned by the same people. Mm-hmm. How has that been a helpful partnership? How does that integrate together?
Well, it really does create synergy. So it's great for our boutique hotel guests to have access to the Olympic Athletic Club. And then, of course, there's the fact that our members receive a discount for rooms at Hotel Ballard that they can extend. And that comes into play oftentimes during the holidays when people have people to visit,
sure.
Have people coming over to visit, and they'll book rooms for them. So it does work hand in hand.
I was thinking, like, if one's not doing well, the other one can make up for it. Like, if you have a slow month at the gym, but you had a bunch of private events at the hotel or something. I don't know if it works.
Well, they operate completely separately.
Okay.
Yeah. So as far as a business is concerned, we're both completely independent.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Fair enough. So speaking of independent, like I said, you worked for a lot of kind of these bigger clubs. What's the difference between working for that versus, because it's just a couple, right? A family that owns?
There are two families.
Two families. Okay.
Yeah. So we're locally owned, as we like to say, really community focused.
What's the difference between, working for kind of two families versus some of these big corporations?
I'd say speed of execution. Mm-hmm. So when a decision's made in regards to purchasing new equipment, in regards to making renovations, those decisions are made on a faster pace, I would say, compared to what I've seen in larger organizations. So we're more mobile, we're more agile. And then also there's personal input. So that's something I really appreciate as well. Having spent most of my life, or all my life really, in this industry, it's nice to be able to have input in regards to programming, classes, equipment, and have that opinion
heard,
and hold a lot of weight.
Yeah. It's so true. I've worked for small companies and big companies, and the pace is really different. Mm-hmm. And I mean, good or bad, but like there are times where I was writing stuff just directly onto the website, and then you go to a bigger company and it needs to go through like copy editing, copywriting, and legal, which makes sense, but it's just such a different process.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on this one before we move on?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So our last one, I'll do my best to recap this. This is a big story nationwide, so you're probably seeing it everywhere. But the union workers are on strike for Starbucks. So Starbucks Workers United, it's the union. It represents only about 4% of, they call their baristas partners. So if you hear that throughout the episode, that's what it means. And so this union represents about 4% of them, and they are striking 95 stores and 65 cities as of recording this podcast. Why are they doing this? Because of unfair labor practices, they say, and a failure to address their demands for better pay, more hours, and improved staffing schedules. So an example of this is not giving them 20 hours, just under 20 hours a week so that Starbucks doesn't have to pay their benefits, etc. This has started on November 13th, and they're threatening to make it the longest and largest in company history if the demands are not met. They entered mediation in February. So of this year, they had mediation in February. They didn't approve the plan that was proposed in April, and then now here we have them striking in November. They both are blaming each other. They both are saying we're willing to negotiate. We want to solve this. That's classic for some of these strikes. And then my buddy Brian Nickel, who I don't know why I just can't stand him, but he sends out an email and says, we had the strongest reasonable Red Cup day in company history, and does not acknowledge the strike. The strike is called they're calling themselves the Red Cup Rebellion. It was on the day, they started on the day of the Red Cup revealing. So he's acknowledging the Red Cup day and saying it was the strongest ever and not saying anything about this. And he's making $1 bajillion and living in Orange County. So interesting. It's a big story. I don't know. Do you have a take on it, or do you want to?
That's what I don't really have a read on completely.
It's a tough one.
I mean, a lot of these layoffs and strikes we do feel directly in our business because the club's one huge community. So people talk and they talk to everyone, front desk. They talk to personal trainers. They talk to group fitness instructors. So when these things happen, there is a ripple that occurs in the club. Looking beyond that, I'd say I wouldn't really have anything else.
Yeah, I have a hard time because I'm not in it, but I tend to believe if it's 65 cities and that many people, then there must be something wrong. But
sure.
I also don't. I don't feel that I'm in the room. I'd like to be in the room to be able to speak on it, is what I would say.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about talent. This is obviously about staffing and your workers, and some of these instructors have gotten famous for their work, and they're so important in a class. Sure. So how do you find and keep talent here in Seattle?
It is a big part of what we do. And I mean, we're very fortunate to have dedicated managers that are always looking for talent. They get referrals from the existing talent. But the main thing is really keeping the people that we have. There's a very low turnover in regards to, let's say, our group fitness instructors, which are some of the biggest community organizers, I would say. They have huge followings in the club. A big part of keeping them happy is listening to them, acknowledging their needs, addressing them as much as we can. And then a big part of it also is our members. Our members really appreciate the effort and the energy they bring to their work and the professionalism and talent. And it's kind of a synergy, or it's a marriage one way or another. Mm-hmm. And one sustains the other. A lot of our instructors are here because they just love what they do, and they love teaching to the community that we have, which is a really broad-based one. Since we've been in business for 40 years, we've got members, wide spectrum of ages that are here. So I'd say it's a rather unique combination of things that helps us be successful from the standpoint of the talent that we have and keeping them.
Yeah. What about, I know I've interviewed other places and restaurant owners and things, and there's the rising wages and labor costs and all of that. How does that affect your staffing model? Has that impacted you?
Well, I think it causes us to be more intentional. I think we're all affected by rising wage costs, or the fact that labor costs are always a large portion of your P&L. I think it creates an atmosphere where we become clearer in regards to what the expectations are when we're hiring people, especially in a hospitality environment. Make sure that they deliver on the promise that we put out to our members, and they understand what their responsibilities are clearly. I think that's the biggest part, really, just being more intentional in regards to our planning, and then providing a supportive environment for them is extremely important, because ultimately retention, we've talked about this just briefly when we were talking about group fitness or instructors. Retention of great employees is key to our success.
Yeah, I liked what you said at first, was listen to them. I think that's so simple and often missed, is just listening to what's important to them and how to keep them there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
What's next for OAC? Anything in the future we can get excited about? Any new amenities or new things?
I'd say first and foremost is going to be continuing to improve on the fundamentals. We've got a big focus right now on the hospitality component of what we have, and that's one of the more fun aspects of our job, I like to say. I mean, the fact that part of my job is just being nice to people, greeting them, smiling. I look at that as a blessing, and I try to convey that to my teams, that they understand that as well. So we're really focused on that. And then our group fitness program continues to grow. We're at 156 classes, and we're going to continue pushing that As we listen to our members and see what their needs are, we have specialty classes that, most other places charge more for that we have included, and we'll continue to grow that. And then beyond that, there is a constant reinvestment in the club. So equipment is continuously updated and changed throughout the entire year. So focusing on the fundamentals really speaks to our concern being focused on members. They're tied into each other.
I think it's smart. I've seen a lot of people complaining, like going back to basics, So I just saw this TikTok where she was like, I don't need this AI. I need to be able to search an email from my Outlook and for it to come up. Let's just get the simple things right. So it's a good strategy. All right, Jean-Luc, our last question for everybody is give us some advice to get motivated. What do you do to get motivated for your job, and what can our listeners do to do their job? And I was going to say your answer is probably going to say go work out, but which you're allowed.
No, I was going to say, no, it's not. I mean, that's part of the overall strategy, but I'd say it's really leaning into the challenge of running a successful organization, and being proud of it. And that's a constant and never ending challenge. This is, for me, an opportunity to run an operation, to manage a club in a very different way that you do in maybe a larger organization. Responsibilities in regards to expenses, in regards to purchases, in regards to programming, all flow ultimately through me. So that challenge alone will get me up in the morning. Sometimes it'll have me scared in the morning, but it gets me up in the morning, really excited to come to work. That and having a great team of people to work with. Because none of what I can do, none of what we do at the club happens without the managers that we have here. And you got a lot of dedicated people that advocate for their staff and that love what they do. So it's great to be around that. So those two factors are enough to get me out of the bed and motivated.
Yeah, very well said. Well, thank you for taking the time to sit down and doing your homework, reading these articles, and for letting us record here at Hotel Ballard. And I think we're going to do a little tour, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't seen it, so I'm excited to go check it out. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
This has been The Weekly, with production assistance from Nick Patry. If you liked what you heard, rate us and write a review on Apple Podcast or Spotify. We love listener feedback, so if you have any story suggestions, comments, or complaints, email us at info@theweeklyseattle.com. Make sure to check back next Sunday for the latest local business news. We'll see you next time.